Hey, my fellow multidimensionals, it's Asia Andromeda, founder of multidimensionalu.com. What do we get up to around here? Metaphysical coaching, multidimensional engineering, intergalactic shaman work, reconnecting with our star peeps, and on and on and on. So in this video, I'm going to address, and whoever else is going to channel through my field a little bit later in this recording, the topic of taking responsibility for our shadow. And so if you've watched some of the other videos and messages, shadow is, it's our fear, it's the unaccepted, unhealed aspects of ourselves, all that good kind of, anytime a negative emotion gets triggered intensely in us, like resentment, bitterness, jealousy, envy, you can bet that shadow is at work. So on the journey of awakening, and remembering this amazing, expansive field that we are, it's really important to move out of victim consciousness and take full responsibility for when we have moved into that contracted state of victim consciousness and when we are actively projecting it out into the world, because those act as psychic darts, right? So being really, really mindful and responsible in the same way that we wouldn't throw trash out of our window and on, someone's lawn or in public spaces, we need to do the same with our psychic litter and energy, right? So, and I get it. I didn't grow up in a way that, I was being taught in school that be mindful of your thoughts because it creates, it can be like hot garbage in the sun. And nobody wants to feel that, smell that, or be on the receiving end of that. So I'm obviously trying to do this with a little bit of levity and humor and also a lot of love, because in some ways in the beginning it's just not your fault, right, that you ended up with certain traumas and fragmented states. But on a higher dimensional level, there is the truth that you volunteered or accepted or opted in or intended to have this experience. And so while people in the physical may project yucky things your way, how you respond and how we respond is ultimately our responsibility, right? So we talk a lot about, shielding ourselves, protecting ourselves, influencing the field, bringing vibes up, and there really couldn't be a more important foundational step than getting out of judgment, blame, projection, resentment, and all of that, and cleaning up our act, so to speak, right? Our metaphysical act, our emotional act. And of course, physical goes without saying. So you may not realize it, but you may be in traffic and someone doesn't drive all that well. Maybe they cut you off or they cut someone else off, and you witness this, and you may have a desire to want to say, what a blankety blank. Understand that as you say that, you are projecting out into the field towards that person more negative energy, which, right, goes without saying, that's not going to help the situation. It'll only make it worse, because somebody who's behaving poorly in the social environment is already in a lot of pain. They're already in a wounded state, and so sending them more negative energy will only beget more of that. So that's the big motivator of the why it's so important to do this. So I'm going to challenge both you and me in the next 7 days, every day, to be extremely mindful. Like, I know many of you are already at a very high level of self-awareness, but let's see if we can't challenge ourselves to take it to the whole next level of becoming very self-aware of when we're having a negative judgment or thought about another. Seeing if we can't just neutralize it on the spot, right? You can do things like, Control Alt Delete, take that back. I take that back, I neutralize it, and I replace it with, the opposite, loving energy. Let's do that challenge together. I'm thinking about that on a daily basis, like what can come through just very subtly even, right? You may watch people do things that trigger your own shadow and you don't catch it immediately, right? That it's your shadow at work. The way to catch it is when you find yourself with a little bit of an edge, right? Yeah, all of that. All right, so that is what I have to share with all of you on taking responsibility for our shadow. Let's shift gears and see who else might want to come in and share their perspective. Greetings, it is I, Archangel Michael. I have spoken to you all before about the shadow, have I not? And while it can be an incredible ally when you are actively engaged in working with it, many of you, whether you are conscious of it or not, are in a dynamic in which your shadow is in a state of semi-possession of your consciousness. What does this mean? This means that you feel entitled to have an emotionally negative reaction to an event or circumstance in which you feel as though there is wrongdoing being done, most especially to yourself, but perhaps another. It is in that moment that it is critical that you divest yourself from this energy that is possessing your field of consciousness, and you sit it down with a loving heart, and you hold it accountable with a new internal boundary for what you will and will not accept or tolerate as part of your own set of behaviors. It is this fundamental reshift in the environment that is your field of consciousness that will make all the difference in how you experience your future reality. It is, as the channel would say, a game changer. I am Michael. He's out, and I'm like, okay, what did he just say? Just give me a second to get my head wrapped around that. Okay, so basically what he's saying is that when we are not taking responsibility for our own shadow, our shadow is possessing us. Yeah, I think that's fair to say, based on what I've witnessed in myself, and then certainly in other people. Maybe you've had that experience later. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. Like, what even was that? There was also this indication, it almost felt like a sub-conversation happening when he was talking about that shadow aspect was coming in as a protector, especially if, not if, when a lot of these core wounds developed early on in your life, and when you were powerless, you were a toddler, you were tiny. But it's like that now aspect has to, like he said, it has to have a whole new boundary set. It's just not okay to behave in these ways anymore. It's almost like, thank you for your service. They're no longer required. The whole point is to keep your psyche safe. So while we are not assigning fault to how these shadows came about, we do need to now take responsibility and set new internal boundaries with ourselves and with these aspects that can come in and out of possessing us, right? And maybe this lands for some of you. You may have had conversations with people that, it's always easier to see in other people than in ourselves, that you're like, whoa, that was crazy. And then later, maybe a few days or a few weeks later, you talk to the person and they have no conscious recall of having said whatever this intense thing was that they said. Okay, so that is, that's possession. And now that I think about this, I'm realizing that all the clearing work that I've done, entities are only in a person's field because there's a resonance, right? The law of vibration, like attracts like. So, wow, that's helpful. New internal boundaries with oneself, done lovingly but firmly. We are not going to spew this crap anymore onto the world. Thank you for helping to keep me safe. I understand where you're coming from, and a new day has arrived. What did he say? Game changer. What did he say that I said? Game changer. All right. Wow. As ever, please share comments, interact with one another, always in a loving way, because we will delete those semi-possessed shadow comments. Keep this safe, loving. There are kids that participate in this space, so I'm very motivated to keep it clean. We don't need more hot garbage. And please do share this with family and friends who you think it will serve at this time. And then, yeah, and to keep your field clear, there's a link to a free grounding and clearing meditation in the description below. Use daily as needed, multiple times a day. Clear out the gunk. All right, with that, I am sending you all so much love. I hope you can feel that. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye for now.